Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Buenas, this is Francisco Gallardo with the Healing Generations podcast, Yelder edition, brought to you by the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. So today we have a really special guest. I'm really happy to have him here. But before I reveal all that, I want to make sure we do what we do. We honor the four directions. We ask permission to be here, and we ask the ancestors to help guide us. That we're always with our ancestors in some way, and it's important that we acknowledge them, make an offering in a good way, just so that we could center ourselves and think about what's really important. As you know, our podcast is not just about healing and surviving trauma, but it's also how we're fostering the resiliency in ourselves and our community. That's a big thing of what we do. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you to take a deep breath. I'm burning some copal today, some white copal. I want you in your mind, think of that east direction. We kind of bring in all the men in our lives. Our grandfathers, our dads, even our hood dads, our tios. We want to bring in our nephews, our sons, even our godsons. We want to bring in the homies. We want to bring in all those that are important to us, even the ones that are locked up or in the hospital and foster care, all our young men, we want to think of them too. We want to remind ourselves of them, because sometimes we just think about ourselves, but there's so many people that those relationships impact us. So we want to think of that. And then we start to move to our left to face the west. But before we get there, we honor our LGBTQ relatives and all the things that they're facing today. It's a very tough environment. Not like it's not tough for them because people don't understand, but it's tough for them when they're trying to get into their lives, marriage and other things, We need to support them in whatever struggle and also honor the blessings they bring to our community. We want to honor them in that way. And we face this west direction. We think of our grandmothers, our mothers, our tias, our hood tias, our hood moms, those that show us love unconditionally, that love that they have for young people. And then we also want to think about the trauma too that they face, want to think about that, remember them. Because there's a lot of people that know victims of domestic violence, but somehow we don't know the perpetrators. To me, that just shows our disregard for our women in that way, So we want to honor too our young women, those that are in that college age, those that are our moms that are just doing good, and those women who choose to build a career, to build a life. We want to honor them and respect what their decisions are. Their autonomy, all those things that they want. But we also need to celebrate all the beauty that they bring, the nurturing spirits, That's very important. There's no greater love. My elders used to tell me there's no greater love than a mom. Moms could perform miracles. We want to channel that love here today, And as we turn left again, we make it all the way around to that north direction. And in the north, it's our ancestors, those that lived before us that we don't even know their name, but we know they try to make a better life for us. They were surviving. They were creating wisdom that we benefit from. And we pray often that they'll reveal more to us, reveal more of their wisdom to us. It's still there. And we want to also honor our living elders, the ones that have that wisdom, the institutional knowledge for the fights that we have, and to bring in the blessings too. We want to honor our elders, So I want to remind you, if you have a mom and dad still alive, grandparents, call them, bring them some tacos, bring them some soup, just little gesture to let them know you care. Listen to that story for the 100th time. Because, they say often that if the elders telling you stories, it's because you haven't got the lesson yet. Reflect, honor them. And remember, there's all kinds of elders. I'm not talking about just spiritual elders. I'm talking about our organizing elders, our elders just in the calle existing. We don't know the life that they lived, So be kind, listen to them. And then from the very oldest, we switch and we move to the south, and there's a spectrum from the very oldest to the very youngest. And as we face that south direction, we want to think about all the children, all the babies, even the ones that are not even born. We want to think about them. We want to think about the hope that they bring to us, how they're going to sound, what they're going to look like, what personality do they have, what education do they want. We want to think about them in that way, from when they're little babies all the way to their toddlers, to their, a little elementary school students, to middle school, high school, and beyond. We want to think about our children in a good way, all the blessings that they bring, and even the little traviesos too. We want to honor them because they're special to us, and we want to make space for them. We need to listen to them because they're teaching us too. Oftentimes we think we know better, but sometimes they're going to reveal things to us. We need to honor them in that way. And then we raise our hands up to greet the sun. And really what the sun represents, the power, the light, the love. There's nothing like that sun hitting you and it just feels so good, in the morning. And we look at that sunrise, the hope that it brings, every day, even no matter what, clouds, whatever, that sun is still there. Just sometimes we need to have the faith. We know it's there. And sometimes in life, we forget that hope is there. We just got to look for it, But we want to honor the sun in that way. It allows the plants to grow. It's just a symbiotic relationship with the earth. So I want you to reach down if you can, touch the earth, or think about your favorite place to be outside, the mountains, in front of a lake, at the ocean. I want you to think about Mother Earth, Tonancin. Think about her, all the manifestations of her. I want you to think about how important we need the earth. We need to take care of her, do our best to create policies in our everyday life, Think about, you don't need to throw that on the ground, find a place for it, take care of it. Do the best you can to honor it. Not just with words, but with actions. I want you to think of Mother Earth and all she represents. Again, she's life-sustaining. That's how important the earth is to us, And people don't even think of how important that is. And then I want you to think of the center. I want you to put your hands out in the center, whatever you believe in. I'm not trying to get you to believe in what I believe, but I want you to just think of the miracle of life. Just how important life is to us, just being able to wake up and move around, and everyone's life, has different paths, but we have it, we have relationships, we have those things. And I believe that spirit that we talk about is the creator manifesting itself, So whatever you believe, I want you to think, think our lives, think our environment, everything that we have, even if things are not 100% the way we want them, we still have it. There's people that have way worse off than us, So we have to sometimes have that humility to recognize, it ain't always about us. It's about the collective us. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to say palabra again. Take in that breath. Just remember that breath of life. You could always take time and take a breath. And it's hard. Because sometimes I have a hard time. I get riled up and And I have to remind myself, I got to take a better way. I got to really work hard at it sometimes, even when my anger gets the best of me. But I know there's a lot of people out there like that. So today, like I said, I want to first remind everybody we got a new podcasting host, Michelle Gonzalez. How you doing, Michelle?
Hey, what's up, everyone? How y'all doing? Happy to be back.
Yeah, I'm excited, So, hey, I want to tell you, if you have some questions that you want to know about Michelle, we're going to do a small podcast for her just so we could all get to know her, and you could get to know her as a podcasting host. And she works here at NCN too. She's not just on the mic. She's doing the work, in various different ways, So I have one question for you, Michelle.
A ver.
What's healing mean to you?
Healing means so many different things to me. I think the first thing that comes to mind is healing is a journey. It's not a destination. And healing could be physical healing, but it's also emotional, spiritual. And for me, one of the best forms of healing is through the arts. Like, I love expressing myself through drawing, through crafting, and through dancing, through moving the body. That's what comes up right now.
I like that. I always talk about this, but the power of movement. And meme, a symbol that I really find a lot of inspiration in is the Olin. There's many different symbols that represent that sacred movement. They talk about the Nawa Olin, which is that 4 directions, the 4 movements, all that. To me, if you're having a tough time, do what you can to push past it. Things will get better. You just have to pull on your own resiliency so that it can get better.
That is very true. I get reminded of that here all the time.
Yeah. All right. So we want to jump back in and talk a little bit about our guest. I can't remember exactly. It was a while back. I went to a training in East Los Angeles. It was Raising Children with Pride. It's a fatherhood curriculum we did. And while I was there, we sweated over there, like near somewhere in East LA. I don't remember the exact community, but we were there and
Lincoln Heights.
Yeah, Lincoln Heights. Yeah, so we were in Lincoln Heights, and it was it was a kind of a trippy sweat. It was up on a hill, and we go over there. But anyway, at the training, I first met Israel, and I knew his brother already. But I didn't realize, they were brothers, and really until we were at the sweat. Then I was like, oh yeah, and afterwards we went to go eat, but the sweat was really good. But I just remember that, we're at the sweat. And I think to me, when you're in any kind of ceremony or environment and you're, kind of praying together, there's an instant kinship in a way, for me, just going through that ceremony together, coming out on the other side, feeling good, went to go eat, went to just spend a little time, hanging out, me, Mario. And anyway, we got to know Israel. And I don't know how long he had been with me at that point, but, he was moving and shaking. And since then, it's been a big journey. So I'm really happy to have Israel Villa here with us, to share a little bit about his life, his journey. Because I think there's a lot of relatives out there that face similar things, And this podcast is really, as you know, we talk about healing, not just about the trauma that we have to go through to achieve this healing, but there's also, when we say healing, we're not talking about just overcoming adversity. It's just we're living in a way that helps us overcome life's bumps, life's valleys, life's mountains sometimes. And it's a constant thing, I remember when I was young, I would think to myself, hey, if I could get to this point, everything's going to be good. And then I would get there and I would look on the other side and there was another valley. I'd be like, damn, another one. But at the same time, it was each time I had the knowledge, I had the heart from overcoming the last obstacle. I was ready to take on that new one. With more confidence, with more. And that's what I saw from Brother Israel. I saw his confidence and his willingness to commit, to change not only his life, but other people's lives. So I want to bring in Israel. Israel, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your journey, your people, who are you, who you're representing, and the path that brought you to where you are today.
Right on. Thank you so much, Cisco. I think first and foremost, I want to acknowledge and appreciate y'all for this invitation. It's definitely an honor and a pleasure. And I'll be honest, I've been sitting over here humbly waiting for the invitation, So I'm glad that we're here. I also want to acknowledge and appreciate that powerful, beautiful ground that you share with us, bro. I always appreciate, honestly, when you speak, you got a whole lot of medicine you share with us, and I've learned a lot from you, and so I appreciate you and my sister Michelle here. My name is Israel Salazar Villa. I was born in Salinas. I'm very proud to be from Salinas, specifically from East Salinas. We have a reputation. It might not be so good, but I consider myself a success story out of East Salinas, My dad's name is Ruben Villa. He's from Guadalajara, Jalisco, arriba las Chivas. And my mom, her name was Silvia Villa, and she was born in Harlingen, Texas. And my dad, he was second oldest of 6 siblings. And he migrated over here when he was about 15 years old. Unfortunately, he already had lost both of his parents. His mom due to cancer, and then his dad, alcoholism and things like that. And so he migrated over here seeking that American dream. He was the first of his 6 siblings. They landed in Salinas because we had relatives there. And folks don't know, Salinas in Monterey County, it's called the salad bowl capital of the world. We feed the world. We're surrounded by rich agriculture. And so for our folks, it's that American dream, but unfortunately that trade or that kind of work, it's, oftentimes the relatives are some of the hardest work, but least paid, least appreciated. Mm-hmm. And so I acknowledge and appreciate my dad's journey. And so he came to Salinas, he worked in the field, saved up his money. He brought my tia Olivier, would be the eldest sister. They both worked in the field, saved their money, brought the next one, so on and so forth. And so in those times, and to this day, a lot of the raza, they follow what they call a corrida. They might come to Monterey County for a time period and they take off to the south, or they might go to Yuma, so on and so forth. But at that time, my mom's family from Texas, they used to come every summer to Salinas to work in the fields. And they actually met in the strawberry fields of Salinas, fell in love, eloped, and como dicen, the rest is history. That's how we got planted in Salinas. About myself, my upbringing, I'll be honest, I feel like I was blessed, Both of my parents were farm workers, and I think it was like right in between kindergarten and first grade, we moved from a neighborhood called Baranda to the east side, specifically on Roosevelt Street. There's an amazing community-based organization known as Chispa, which has grown significantly since those days till now. They're like, they create low-income housing, a lot of farm worker housing, things like that all over the region now. But at that time, there was their first 2 apartments were right there, right in my neighborhood, right around Roosevelt, Madera, East Market Street. So we were lucky. We got selected through a lottery. They were brand new. I remember brand new 4-bedroom apartments. Everything was clean, like brand new. And the apartments were pretty big that we lived in. And then on the same block in the corner, they had even bigger apartments. And so all of our parents we had in common, they all worked in the fields, and many of our other neighbors as well. That's probably the most common, trade or work, unfortunately, for our folks around here. And so there was a bunch of us kids, our parents worked in the fields, came home 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock whenever they came home. And so in those days, there was no laptops and cell phones and Xboxes and things like that. I remember we had Atari, and I was like, whoa, Atari, I'm dating myself. I was born in 78, so many, many moons ago, But we had fun as kids. We was outside. We was rarely inside, we was running around, playing tag, hide and seek. There was a La Paz Park is right across the street from our apartments. And so we played a lot of sports, soccer, baseball, football, you name it. We was in the streets often until the lights went, until our mama started screaming for us, or the vecina started, hey, time to go inside. You know what I mean? We're definitely, what I can say about my neighborhood, very much, it was a village. You know what I mean? It was a village. And it was, to me, again, I never felt poor. I don't remember being hungry, going without. And I've also, I've sat down for many years in the South, have reflected a lot. And I know that I was blessed. And I think one of the biggest contributing factors here is because I actually had both of my parents, a lot of my peers and other young folks, a lot of single family homes, so on and so forth. And so we had two migrant field workers. And so I feel like that was definitely a blessing. And I had a great childhood, straight up. School for me never really much of a challenge. They said that I was gifted and talented. I was what they call a GATE student. I don't know if they still have that or not. But even then, school wasn't a challenge, and so I would say like in the 4th, 5th grade, definitely started experiencing some challenges. You know what I mean? I am one who has what they call ADHD right now. My knee's been going like this the whole time. As far back as I can remember, I've always had a lot of energy. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to keep still. And so I'd finish my work super fast, and engaged in adolescent behavior. You know what I mean? But I would say that in a nutshell, it led to the school to prison pipeline. Most of my life, I didn't understand what happened. I felt like I should have been an astronaut or like something amazing, something great, and it didn't make sense. But now, since I've been home and learning about, the school to prison pipeline, once I learned that term, it made all the sense in the world, And in my case, unfortunately, with our educational system here, the Western approach is a one-size-fits-all model, and we're all very unique. That doesn't work for our young folks, in my opinion. It didn't work for me. I wasn't challenged enough, and I feel like, instead of investing or challenging me, I was pushed out of school straight up. In the 6th grade, I had my first contact with law enforcement. And then also, I think it was like right after the 6th grade was like my first arrest. So I was probably about 12, 13 years old. And unfortunately for me, it was a trap, like many other kids, school to prison pipeline. I met the folks known as probation and met the folks that they call the youth justice system, which I'll be honest, I still struggle with that term because these systems are not just, and they have never been just to people that look like us or to people of color, And for me, it was a trap. I became a regular in juvenile hall. I got sent to a few group homes. I got sent to the California Youth Authority in the 90s when there was over 10,000 of us in those state youth prisons. And my journey continued. I came out of the Youth Authority nowhere near healed. Actually, I think in hindsight, I feel like as I progressed into the system, I was further hurt, further desensitized. And at some point, reached a point where I just felt I had to be cold. I was cold in order to survive. You know what I mean? And it continued. I came home. I didn't even last 3 months. I found myself rearrested for some very serious charges and fighting 117 years with 3 life sentences. And I'll be honest, at that point, I accepted it. I thought I was going to get life,
Wow.
For most of I would say by the time I was 15, I just embraced the direction, the path I was on. And just from seeing my peers, again, I'm a little older. So we're talking Prop 21, 15 and older gets tried as adults. You know what I mean? Gang enhancements, gun enhancements, you name it. There's just a trajectory of these systems and law enforcement and punishment, et cetera. And so I've, by the grace of God and my prayers and my ancestors' prayers, the Creator has some. I didn't get life. I ended up taking a deal for 9 years, did my time, came home, was in and out a few times, and then continued all the way to the federal system. And so I literally have touched every single layer and level. And I'm very, very consistent that I shared that none of it was good for me. I do not feel like it helped me. I learned a lot, but I don't think it was not a lot of good things, I had to learn what I had to learn to survive and to thrive in that world. And, I did. I was able to navigate over 18 years of incarceration in a 23-year span from about 12, 13 to 35. And I'm grateful. I'm honored. I'm blessed. I'm humble. I'm super, super grateful because that was not the first time they tried to give me life, And I've been home now in May will be 12 years, Cisco. So that was you're right, about 11 years ago. That was when I was fresh out. I remember that training. It was a good one. And I remember that sweat lodge, bro. It was one of, towards the beginning of participating in those type of ceremonies. And I was excited. I heard y'all say something about a sweat. I was like, what? Where? What's happening? Like, what? Can a homie from up here come with y'all? What's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was great, bro. I remember we passed by that Lincoln High School and I was like, oh shit, that's Lincoln High School, the walkouts and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were like in that barrio. And then it was like the movies, bro. Like you said, the house was up on the hill. And then on this side, it was just yellow grass. You know what I mean? Like the movies, And
yeah, exactly.
I remember we walked up and I seen some, we were in Lincoln Heights. We were, I think, East LA or something like that. And so, obviously there was some Sureño camaradas, Sureño primos right there. And I seen them with no shirts. And so I'm like, well, shit, just like on the yard, I'm going to take my shirt off too, and took my shirt off. And I got some representation on me, Salinas and other things. And it was like, hey, yo, what's up? How you doing? Boom, boom, boom. And it was beautiful, it was beautiful. Obviously, we were there for ceremony, and we ain't in prison, we ain't politicking, and honestly, it was a great one. It was a great one. I remember I sat right next to Mario, and he was like, "Hey, bro, you sit well. That was a hot one. And I didn't feel you move one time." I was like, I don't know, but anyways, I think for now, I think I'll stop right there as far as this first question, bro, because as I shared, I got ADHD, and I can have a tendency to go deep over here and come back over here. So I think for now, hopefully that was a good answer to the first question, bro.
Yeah, it was good. I think part of it is you've been through a lot, and that was a heavy journey. I mean, it's some people look at that and say your life's like a movie. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, because a lot of times we hear that going the opposite direction. Somebody goes to prison and they hit that, especially at a young age, then it's a revolving door, right? They become accustomed to that life, and that's the only life they know and want that. You know what I mean? But I know there's hundreds of other people who might do that and all they want is another shot at life, another shot at trying to do it again and in a humble way. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michelle.
All right. Israel, I really appreciated hearing all of that in your conocimiento, because even though I've been in so many spaces with you and through many, many círculos of conocimiento, I don't think I had ever learned as much as I did right now. And there was so much that you said that it had me going down memory lane because it resonated so much with me. Such as when you shared about you being outdoors, being outside, playing with your friends, right? Like I had a very similar childhood where I grew up in, and being taken care of by my neighbors. And likewise, I think even the things that you shared in terms of schooling and your education, of having a hard time keeping still, of finishing up really fast and not always being so challenging, right? And that being kind of difficult to navigate. All of that really resonated with me as well. And all to say, right, my question to you is, what teachings and traditions from your cultura and even from your lived experiences have guided your healing journey?
That's a great question. I mean, I think when it comes to like our roots and our culture, I'm very grateful specifically for my dad, because one thing that he instilled from a very young age, and honestly, not necessarily verbally, more through the example and things like that. But we are very, very proud Mexicanos. I'm a Chicano, but I've always been proud of my roots. You know what I mean? I went to Sherwood School Elementary on Wood Street. And at that time, the United Farm Workers office headquarters in Salinas was right next door to our school. And my dad actually was a UFW organizer. And he had a role, actually, I learned since I came home this time and I was going to community college, in one of my classes, it was like to interview somebody's like migration story. So I learned a lot from him. And he just, again, we were just always been very proud. And so I'll also say, because he lost his parents very young, I've also been very curious about learning my specific ancestry and roots. But it's like a cutoff, because with losing his parents, that generate like the teachings and stuff like that. So I'll be honest, I can't say that we grew up, going to ceremonies or even being familiar with, the Palo Santo, the cedar, the smells of our medicines. However, throughout my journey of incarceration, unfortunately, I sat down a lot, and I would say a large majority of my time was in isolation, even as a young person. And so I read a lot of books, and my favorite topic, it got to my people, it's my ancestors, it's the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Toltecs, indigenous folks across the Turtle Island, Las Americas, as we know it, And so that was always, I think, helpful. But when I came home, and there was an organization, it's known as MIPA. It was a brand new organization. And my brother, Georgie, who Cisco mentioned earlier, when I came home, I went to a halfway house in Oakland. And I remember he came to visit me and bring me some of my clothes and some hygiene and things like that for my little hour pass. And Georgie, like myself, also has that ADHD energy. And when we get when we're excited about something and we're very passionate, it's like, so he came to visit me and he couldn't stop talking about Prop 47. Prop 47 this, and we're canvassing and phone banking. And bear in mind, all of our movement lingo and organizing and advocacy and civic engagement, like those terms were pretty alien to me. You know what I mean? I'm a homie. I grew up in East Salinas. That time period there was not just a boom of mass incarceration and prisons. It was the gangbanging boom. You know what I mean? Unfortunately. And yeah. So again, I think at Milpa is when I first, even though I had like read about sweat lodges and tipi ceremonies and feathers and things like that, it was just all teachings through a book. And so when I got to Milpa was the first time that, I got doctored up with some sage and seeing medicine and feathers and just started learning. It was honestly, we're always forever students, but when I came home, it was like I was a kindergartner again, but it was everything that we do, that I'm doing and talking about now, from organizing to advocacy to legislation to school boards, like you name it, the movimiento, all levels and battlefronts, you know what I mean, of our work. And so through Juanillo and at Milpa was my first opportunity to go to a sweat. I remember he took me we went up there to ¿cómo se llama? Lake Tahoe with Uncle Al Polinsky, my first sweat lodge. It was a very small lodge. I'm 6'1". I couldn't even sit all the way up, bro, like small. And it was the hottest one I have experienced. Yeah, I think it was great. It was meant to be because it was one of those where, you might even crisp up your eyebrows a little bit. And you're right there on them rocks, but it was a great experience for me. And I acknowledge Uncle Al, and I got to acknowledge Juan Gomez, because for whatever reasons, he brought me to Salinas. And if it wasn't for him, that's my first opportunity. None of us ever want to go back to prison. You know what I mean? Every time I came home, before coming home, I had my own reentry plans. And even when I got out of prison, at a state prison, my plan was to work, and they give you this list of felon-friendly places in Walmart and McDonald's. And I was humble and I was down for that. Unfortunately, I wasn't getting no luck. I wasn't getting no interviews. I wasn't getting no callbacks. And I believe I understand why. Is because my record, I don't have most of my record is juvenile, I have one adult case and then I have one federal case, one state, one federal. But the charges that I have, I know what they are, and the large majority of it is violent, straight up, hurt people. And I was hurt and I was hurting,
Yeah.
And so that also is very discouraging for a brother and sister coming home, you know what I mean? And the world and the family and everybody expects you to just handle your business, be a dad, pay bills, pay this and that, and I can't get a freaking job. You know what I mean? And so unfortunately, that remaining humble only lasts so long, and you got to survive, and you got bills. And I came home with, almost $40,000 worth of child support debt that took me 10 years to pay. You know what I mean? And so all these challenges and barriers, and honestly, you talked earlier, Cisco, of how the bros and sisters, like it's a cycle, it's an in and out. Well, it is by design. It's not designed to help us. It's not designed to rip. It's designed to break your soul, break your spirit, so that you could conform to their whatever. You know what I mean? And I know personally how hard it's been for me. I mean, I was in and out. I couldn't stay out. And I'll even be honest, if you know me, I'm very transparent. I'm an open book. when I got out of prison, I couldn't, how can I say? I quit. I couldn't take the streets. It wasn't working. I couldn't get a job. And so what did I do? I'm gonna go kick with my little homies. I'm gonna get a violation. Back then they give you a year flat. I needed a break. I can do that. I could sit in there, even though it might sound crazy to some folks. I could do that. I was institutionalized. It's nothing, the danger that there's, like, honestly, I'm good at what I do, including in there. That's how I survived in politics and played chess and made sure I came home in one piece and still in good standings and all that stuff. But back to the question of like the teachings and stuff like that, honestly, the actual teachings, the medicine, the ceremonies, I've been introduced to them since I've been home a little over a decade ago. But you also in the question, I think about art. I'm an artist, I'll share a few pieces and I'm sharing them because I'm going to start selling prints and things soon. And so this is a Jaguar Warrior. It says Mexica Tiawi.
Nice.
And this is a straight big pen on canvas, right? This one here, this is a picture. This is my mom and dad right there. That's my mom and dad, Silvia and Ruben. Unfortunately, we lost my mom during the COVID, but this is a mariachi, Guadalajara, home of the mariachi and other things. But in the hat, it says their names, Ruben and Silvia, and up top it says Amor Eterno.
Beautiful.
And I got other ones, but I share that because for me, being locked down, being in the hole, single cell, you go to prison, you get validated. And so now you're in the hole forever. Every time you go back, you go to the hole. I've shared with people what helped keep my sanity and consumed a whole, you're probably talking about years, literally years, hours turned into years of art. I'm a self-taught artist. And so art for me is healing, when you're done and you create something, it's like, oh, wow, it's, I don't know, we're not supposed to maybe toot our own horns, but like when I create something beautiful, it's like, wow, that's badass. I did that. You know what I mean? And so I think about for sure how much art helped me, I would say, survive countless. The hour, you can only do so many push-ups. You can only do so much of this and so much of that. And so I drew my ass off for years, you know what I mean? And I'm still, again, at some point, maybe I'll learn how to use these other tool pens and shaders. But I don't know how it's a straight big pen, straight pita style, and I will also share, bro. And the world, since I've been home, I have to acknowledge my wife, Susie Marie Villa, my family, I have support that unfortunately I know a lot of our relatives don't, But I have to acknowledge Juanillo, Milpa. That was my first opportunity. I started as an intern, getting a little stipend to a part-time to within a matter of a very short time, I have a lot of leadership experience back here. And so I was able, what they call, transfer my skills and hit the ground running. And I would say I played an extremely large role in the development of that organization. And in all of our local and state, I led all of our local and state campaigns with the help of, our folks. But one opportunity, look at me now, I just needed a chance, just like our young people, just like many brothers and sisters that are coming home with all these barriers, cost of living, lack of housing, so on and so forth. Yeah, it starts there with me, so I have to acknowledge that. And what's helped me, I'll be honest, when we think about healing, it's the medicine. It's literally physical ceremonia. You've helped me, brother. We had a tipi for me, and that you led and held. And so again, I appreciate and love you for that. But it's going to Sweat Lodge every time I'm around the elder, whether it's Nani, Jerry, Tia Marcia, it don't matter. I'm not shy, and I ask for help. And although I know that I've come far on my healing journey, there's a lot of pain still. I got a long ways to go. And my sister, Michelle, said earlier, it's not a destination, it's a path. And I know for me, it's going to be a lifelong path that I'm on to continue to heal and strengthen myself and get to a place, honestly, where I'm at. I feel like right now, it's taken me almost 12 years to get to a place where I don't have to drink alcohol or do anything else to cope with this or to escape that. You know what I mean? And I've always historically been like more of a social drinker. I have a good time when I kick with my homies and drink and you hear some oldies or whatever we're doing, or We go to a kid's birthday party. It's usually adult parties. Like I'm a social person. I have fun. And even though I can't say that I was messing up in recent times where that's concerned. I committed like in November that I was going to go 2026 Cali sober. And then moving forward, I want to remain sober because we have to love ourselves. You know what I mean? Yep. I've always loved myself. You know what I mean? I have a great heart. I believe the reason why I never caught life is because of the good heart that I have. And even though I was up to some bad things, I was always helping people, saving people and things like that. And so, just acknowledging like la cultura cura, culture cures. That is the medicine. That is our cure. And I'm a believer, I would say prior to coming home, I really wasn't spiritual or religious, and I now firmly believe in the Creator and in my prayers because my prayers have been answered and continue. I'm a walking testimony of miracles right here in front of us. You know what I mean? And again, I believe that every brother and sister that's incarcerated, if they were to come home and we were to embrace them and give them an opportunity and help them out just a little bit, they will thrive. Nobody wants to be there. It's not a good place,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Your story about how you became activated. That's how I became too. I was activated. And luckily they caught me earlier in my stage of life where I was messing up. You know what I mean? Like I'm an example, just like you are. It just happened at different times. You know what I mean? I'm lucky I didn't have to go through what you went through. I got a taste, and then my community said, "No way, you're not going down that road. We don't care what you do. We're going to stop you." And they activated me by La Cultura Cura. They not only did they talk to me about it, they showed me. And it activated me to the point where I wanted to do that. You know what's interesting, brother, is that you talked about being gifted and talented. I wasn't gifted and talented. Mario wasn't gifted and talented. So what that proves is that given the right scenario, who knows what we would have accomplished and what we will still accomplish by that. You know what I mean? Like we had the gifts, but not the opportunity, right? Because of colonization, because of systems, they clipped our wings before we can fly in a good way. You know what I mean? And I'm really happy. I also helped Mipa too at one point. Juan asked me to run a ceremony for them and for my tia Marcia también. And me and my crew, we went up there, brother Jojo, Felipe. That's how we rolled. We rolled together. I even got one of my other brothers to come and take care of drum for us. And Gerardo, though, the same guy that helped me out over there at church, one round devotion, we did the same thing, and I'm happy that there's a cadre of men and women, youngsters, older people who are using the ways to spread the word about healthy, being not only healthy and healing and wellness and all these different kinds of things, but we're also changing the narrative that men can be loving, men can be nurturing. You know what I mean? Like I said, I think there's a lot of times we're pressured by the ego driven. Even in Nevada, it's very ego driven. You know what I mean? Like I know people that were good, they just tripped because they weren't happy with their lives. You know what I mean? There's different characters within the community, and I really see a lot of good in that. But what teachings and traditions, you talked about what you learned about the sweat and teepee, but how did you carry those? How do you carry that in your everyday life? I know that sometimes people, they look at our ways and they think it's like typical religion, right? Where you get shamed and you don't think you're worthy of it. And what really freed me was the ability to say, you know what, even though I made a mistake, I can just dust myself off, forgive myself for whatever my shortcomings are, and I tried again. But I don't feel this shame. Like, oh, I'm a sinner, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And no shade against people who find strength in that. I just couldn't do it right. For whatever reason, it didn't speak to me in the same way. But I see that with you. What do you carry every day to make it work for you?
Since I've been home, Again, I've always been, I mean, I consider myself sharp and a fast learner. I watch, I pay down, I'm what they call hyper vigilant. Part of being institutionalized is being hyper vigilant. And so I've definitely been paying attention this last decade. And honestly, I've learned a whole lot. I've been gifted a whole lot of sacred things, from eagle feathers, hawk feathers to, eagle whistles to braid, horse medicine from an auntie in South Dakota. So I've been in this last decade, been gifted a lot of tools. I also, I mean, how I carry it, I mean, part of it is right here. This right here, when I first came home, it's a medicine pouch. And I got this from my mom from Don Marcelino, like within the first year of being out, who was a great elder, medicine man, Huichol, and he used to come to Salas. He'd come to California and go to different communities. He'd do like once a year, he'd come visit us. And we actually hosted him at my mom and dad's house for about 4 or 5 years when he would come. And so I gifted this for my mom. And then when she passed away, I repossessed it. And I carry this with me because it gives me strength. You know what I mean? I feel like I feel like I have a shield in front of me, and I would say in this, again, I kind of shared that right now I'm finally at a place where I don't have to drink or do anything else. You know what I mean? And I don't want to. I feel like my mind, body, and soul and spirit is realigning right now. And I feel strong, I mean, it's kind of weird, but I kind of feel in a way, kind of like when I was in prison, I had to be strong all the way around. And under the circumstances that we're in, we're at war, with these systems and the colonizers. And we got these ICE agents, going door to door. And there's just so much ugliness in the world right now where I feel like I need to be my best for my family, for my community, for our young ones, for the fight that we're in, you know what I mean? And so this helps me, when I was struggling, because if I'm wearing this, it's something that's sacred. It's revered. And so when I was not this strong throughout my last 10 years, is if I'm wearing this, I am not going to drink, you know what I mean? So this is kind of like an anti-everything for me when I need it. And I take it with me. If not this, I go to a lot of unfriendly places, sometimes it's city council, sometimes it's board of supervisors, sometimes it's at the Capitol, the BSEC, all these, government spaces, system stakeholders acting in the best interest and maintaining their system, the status quo. And so I feel like I know when I go to these unfriendly places, I'm going to bring certain things with me. I might bring this. I might have an eagle feather tucked into my thing that nobody knows about. But those, for me, provide the strength, the protection. There's a lot of arrows that are coming at us. So it's my shimali. These are my shields, my protectors, And then I don't do it every day, but I try to, whether it's first thing in the morning, just a quick little limpia to myself, my little daily prayer intentions, or it might be at the end of the night. Or I'll be honest, I've been so busy that I haven't been doing it every day. But what I will say is when I need it, when I struggle, when I come back from Sacramento, when my depression, like right now I've been feeling real strong, but in the last couple of days, I know it's going to happen. I'm about to get jumped by all my mental health challenges.
Yeah.
Because I feel strong and I'm not doing this and I'm committed. And I've been through this a few times since I've been home. I've stopped at one point for like a year and 4 months. And you feel good. And then it's like I call them my demons, or, I'm an open book, but the outcome of me being taken from my parents at a very young age and growing up in an 8x10 box and doing all these years. And now that I've been home and on this healing journey, it's been an emotional roller coaster. I've been up and down all around, But what I'm getting at is for me and for many of my peers, whether they want to admit it or not, is we come home all messed up. I suffer from depression, and it has a mind of its own, and anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety. The cops have come after me twice so far because they don't like what I'm doing now, And so it's like, you talk about PTSD, insomnia. I struggle with sleep. I eat gummies sometimes. I smoke a lot after work. You know what I mean? I deal with a lot. And so I'm a big advocate of cannabis for me. I like it. It helps me in many ways, and it's holistic. It comes from Mother Earth. And so I do my best to take care of myself, And I know that right now I'm about to be in the funk because I've been through here. They're all going to try to jump me, but I see it and I'm laughing because, okay, cool. I'm going to start off pulling out my armors, pulling out my feathers. And that's how I take care of myself. And I'm trying to teach. And I mean, the day of the Super Bowl, one of my buddies and this lady were here, you know, and he and she also are on this journey of trying not to drink this year. Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we barbecue, we smoke, we chilling, but because we're not drinking, I'm able to, hey, and we were sitting here I got an altar right here from my mom with a bunch of things on it, you know, sacreds and medicines. And we was sat here for about 45 minutes and I'm explaining all these different medicines and lighting it and smell this one and showing them this is a gourd and this is this and this. And I'm like, see, bro, because even though we're not drinking all the time, even though I'm a social, when you're messing up, I can't touch these things. You know, my cedar box was in my closet for years because I was struggling and I understand it. And so I think I went in different directions, but I'm gonna go ahead and land my plane on this one and just say, like, I'm doing my best to walk right, to walk with the medicine, but more importantly, to share, you know, as homies are coming home, rather than taking them to, you know, go party or go this and go that. Like, hey, man, I want to take you to a sweat lodge, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to doctor you up with this medicine that I've been learning and things like that. And so for me, part of my commitment to be sober is because I'm now ready, Cisco. And I told Maestro Robert, like, now I'm ready to take on some other responsibilities. And I know that I'm ready, you know? And so I'm excited for this new, you know, school that we're going to go into around protocols and procedures, ceremonies and all that. That's me being sober, strong, walking with medicine, sharing medicine is the best that I could do for my people, for the young people, for the community, and for our fight, you know, and I'll stop right there on this one.
Thank you. I really appreciate, you know, you being upfront about your struggles, you know, because there's a lot of people that we meet, we talk, and they want to say, I'm healed, I'm all good. But the truth is, just like you, sometimes people look at me or Maestro or Mario, or they think, oh, like we're like monks, you know what I mean? And the difference is, you know, is that we face the same thing. You know, when I get into a depression, I go into my cave and I don't come out until I'm ready. You know, even some of my homies, they know when I don't respond to them, it's because I'm in my cave right now. I'm healing myself. I'm doing my thing because I still struggle with that. You know, even though I'm this far along in my life, I still struggle with the same struggles as a teenager. You know, do I feel needed right now? Do I feel like, do I have a lugar? You know, do I belong? And, you know, in the street, you have to constantly reestablish yourself. You're only as good as the last thing you did, you know, and I realized in this work that we have to give each other grace. You know, we sometimes you take a step back, you know, you take a step back and it doesn't mean that you failed. It just means I need to rely on this medicine a little bit more. You know, some people, again, look at it like it's so sacred, but when you really need it, pick it up, use it, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, the thing about sometimes is you have to be careful not to become too righteous, right? In our work, because righteous sometimes turns into ego. You think, oh, I got all the answers. You know, I know what's up. I've been there. But everyone looks at the same picture differently, right? We might look at the same picture, has all the same elements, but it speaks to us differently. And that's the way we have to give each other grace. You know, what they're facing and the way they see it, it might be different than we see it. You know, they say hindsight's 20/20. And I appreciate, you know, your ability. And I, you know, as far as like, you know, this new path that you're taking, it's important, you know, and sometimes it's lonely too, to be honest, because there's certain steps that you have to do. And once you take that responsibility, there's things that you have to work really hard not to allow in your life. But again, no one's perfect. The most important people I've seen, men and women who are leaders, spiritual leaders, not only community leaders, but I've seen people take a step back and our community can be harsh with each other sometimes, you know, especially in today's world where they want to cancel somebody so quick. And but we have to remember that all of us are a work in progress.
Nope.
And in that healing journey, we have to allow grace. You know, we have to allow mistakes to be made and to look at it, you know, expect accountability, all those kinds of things. But the same things we want for our kids, second chances, we want second, third. I mean, I had like 15 chances to be honest, and some of them I didn't deserve, but they saw something in me. They saw something just like people see in you, Israel. And I appreciate your bravery and your courage to be open about it, because a lot of times people are stuck in the shame. And we have to bring to light the darkness at times, you know. To me, sometimes the darkness is comfort. When I'm there, I could find comfort, but sometimes you need to say, all right, I've had this, I've dealt with as much as I could myself. Now I need to reach out. Sometimes you need to ask for help, and it's hard sometimes with a lot of pride. It's hard. And I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle and see where we go.
Yeah, I too admire how open you are, Israel, and the way that you also give yourself grace when you're talking about your lived experiences, and how you're passing on the teachings, not just to our youth, but to your comrades, and your intentionality overall, your intentionality of that armor that you said, right? The way that you protect yourself before starting something, stepping into a certain space, and how you show up. And so with that, what have you discovered about yourself through your healing process that you didn't realize before?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that comes to mind, it's my heart, you know. I would say, you know, again, now that I'm at this age, I see things a lot different, you know. I understand the cycle of violence, you know. When I heard that term, hurt people, like, man, that just makes all the sense in the world, you know. I mean, one of my best friends, you know, he was killed when in seventh grade, at the beginning of the seventh grade. You know, we were young. We thought we were already all super cholos and things like that, but we were freaking kids. You know, his name was Ruben Morphin. Actually, we have a connection. Just go through your wife related to him. You know, that was one of my best friends from first grade up until seventh grade. It was also, from what I can remember, I believe that might have been the first, like, quote unquote, north side homicide with a gun. You know what I mean? Drive-by style. And during that same time, as again, mass incarceration, prisons were booming. That's the time period when the cholo boom, the gangster boom, you know, the barrios and the hoods boomed. And so for me, I've said it a few times, that's one of the most impactful things that happened to me, was losing him, because I went from being a little wannabe kid to picking up pistols and hurt people, you know. I never really had drug charges or dirty urine tests. Most of the things I got busted for had to do with violence, and it had to do with weapons, you know. And so I understand all that. But again, I know that I always had a good heart, and I always knew, even as a young kid, even though we may not fully think about the outcomes and what's going to happen, right? I knew I was doing wrong. I think we all have that moral compass, right? But I guess what I'll say is, I feel like I've truly found my purpose in life. You know what I mean? I now understand why the Creator sat me down for so many years, and I'm grateful, and I thank him for that. Otherwise, I would have hurt a lot more people, straight up, you know, and many more people would have been hurt because of my leadership, bro, in that cycle and madness. And so I thank the Creator for sitting me down. You know, I embrace all those years of pain and anguish and sadness and the real feelings that I was feeling, although I had a mask and had to be hard and had to be cold and do what I had to do. I believe that my good heart and what I'm doing now is the reason why I never caught a life sentence, even though I was absolutely asking for it. You know what I mean? And so I would say I found my purpose. I'm here to protect the women, the children, and the elders. I'm here to protect the village, just like I did my neighborhood, except my people now is the people. You know what I mean? The rainbow, all colors, you know. even the poor white folks, even the white folks. And I met a lot of cool white allies and folks I love dearly. And I say that because as a kid going through that pipeline, I had a lot of hatred towards white folks because I associate them towards the colonization and towards the creators of these systems, even though a lot of the staff look like us. But I don't have that stance no more. You know what I mean? I love all people. We're all sacred, and our worst mistakes do not define us. And Cisco, I had about 20 freaking chances that I needed, but here we are now.
Yeah.
Here we are now. Look at me now. I'm very proud of everything I've done in these last 12 years or almost 12 years. And even though these other folks still don't like what I'm doing and they're probably going to keep coming after me, I'm totally okay with that because now I know, and the people that know me and my community, they know if any sacrifice I'm making now, it is for nothing but righteousness and it is for all of our kids. And I'm okay sacrificing. I've been sacrificing my whole life. And they don't have anything that intimidates or fear that I'm scared of, and it's good, regardless. I don't spend too much time worrying about what they're going to do or not do because I'm busy doing what we need to do and what I need to do, but I'll say that, this healing and discovering myself, it's like I'm at a place where I don't have to wear any masks, I could be vulnerable. I cried now. I cry a lot. I didn't cry for decades, The first talking circle I went to, right when I got that palabra stick, 30 years of everything all came out, and it's, I would say we all have this, it sounds cliche, but I tell a gang of my homies, like, bro, if I could do it, anybody could do it. I was off the hook.
Yeah.
Everybody knows me, it's the reason why I have the name and the reputation, things like that I have. It was definitely earned and it was not in good ways. But I'm blessed and I'm grateful that I've always been up at the front, the tip of the arrow, the tip of that spear. But now this tip is doing nothing but good, nothing but positive. And that's what my community has seen since I've been home. I've been Dean's List, president, all these accolades and awards and things like that. But it's all for the good now, and so I invite any others who, considering, like, I don't think anybody wants to live bad. I don't think anybody wants to be involved in activity that might jeopardize your freedom, although I understand that many folks are forced for many reasons, poverty, so on and so forth. But I want to invite any brother and sister, regardless of their age, you know what I mean, to start thinking about this term, all youth are sacred. We're all sacred. That's what our ancestors believe and knew, and that's what I know. Yep. And so we're all worthy and we deserve to heal from whatever bad things have happened or whatever bad things we've done and things like that. It might sound weird, or like for the homies, like, hey, what this guy talking about? Man, he sounds soft. Man, I'm not insecure about nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very secure in my manhood and I'm not doing nothing wrong, and I invite others, again, to start thinking about transitioning out of other activities and things that might jeopardize your freedom and tap in, in this nonprofit work. It's actually a plus to be a felon in many of our orgs and your experience. And we all have medicine, whether you realize it or not, but we could use your medicine and we want to help, we want to help all our people. And so embrace some help and start exploring this whole concept of healing,
Yeah, definitely. I think healing, again, a lot of people get confused. I think it's soft because you say you're healing or you're into that. Even some people, they trip out on saying, if you say, oh, I'm a healer, they'll be like, oh, no, you can't be a healer. It's like, don't shame me. If you said, oh, I'm a hardcore gangster, nobody has a hard time with that. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, really? Well, I want to be that too. But if you say I'm a healer, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's too sacred for you. But I think we should all inspire to be healers. First with ourselves, our community, our kids, break cycles,
For sure.
Be proud of it. There's nothing more disheartening than we're going to our own communities and they praise the negative things that hurt our people, praising being addicted to drugs, and I'm not shaming those those men and women that are and children that are facing that. But I want better for them. That's the truth. I just want better for them because I believe our people, and I mean all people, we have the ability to change our communities, and when I was young in the movement, we didn't really do policy change because there was a movement. Can you change the system within the system? A lot of times people struggle with that because you could pass a law or you can pass a policy, but if there's no teeth, it's difficult to enforce it, but it's something. Before, like I said, I was one of those guys hardcore. No, we can't do it in the movement. There's no way for us to join them because we have to make compromises. And in that compromise, we weaken our positions. But I do believe it's always better to do what we can than just to write it off. We still need to do the other work. We still need to realize that we still got to do the work. Passing the law, doing the things that's important, but how do we apply it and make our people feel good about it? Because I still struggle with some of my people that not only that, these are my friends too. They're not just, I don't distance myself from my community. As far as I could tell, I do the best I can to keep it together, for them. Yep. And I try to show them love in a good way, but at the same time, I want more from them. I would be dishonest if I didn't say that there's parts of my community that I wish we could find a better way to handle conflicts within the community. And like today, we're facing this ICE stress, this tyranny. I mean, to me, it's almost worse than what even our own relatives faced during the height of the Chicano movement. Right? There was COINTELPRO. It was very underground. There was a lot of tension. But today it's outward. I mean, they'll go to your house and do crazy things. I mean, this is another step in our community when it comes to oppression, but we got to stand our ground when it comes to healing, stand our ground when it comes to spreading the word, about change. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Michelle. I want to thank you because a lot of times we look at it from our perspective, Michelle, but we need that women perspective, because I know you grew up in not so nice neighborhood yourself, in South LA, but you still found a way to go to college and do those things. I'm interested even from you, Michelle. How did you navigate that to not face those issues? And what do you think about it now in relation to hearing the words that Israel's talking about,
Yeah, for me, well, I mean, I grew up in Southeast LA, and drive-bys were very typical. I spent a lot of time by myself. My parents were always working, and the temptations were there. I think I could have easily gone into a different path. But what kept me grounded were two things. One was that my parents were very open about their story, their struggles, and their sacrifices, and kind of like ingrained that in my head, right? Where like, I have to make something out of myself so that is worth it. I also, part of my upbringing was going back home to Mexico because we were the only ones here and the rest of my family was over there. My parents wanted us to stay connected to our roots, to our family. And it's the way that I've learned here, la cultura cura. And so it was just, I think, an innate instinct that they had, right? Where like, if she's grounded in who she is, in her identity and in her family and in her values, then, she won't stray off that far off from us or off the path. And so even seeing the way that my relatives struggled back in the motherland and how hardworking they were, all of that led me to wanting to not just pursue or have these like aspirations of like going to college and doing something for myself, but for me it was being someone for my people, being someone for my community, and which is why I chose the path of being an educator. I wanted to work with youth. I wanted to work with kids who were very much like me, those first gen kids trying to navigate these systems for the first time by themselves, who struggle with having to navigate them for their parents, right? And I wanted to take away those burdens from them or help it be a little less of a burden, right? We're like, at least let me support with the translation. Or maybe these are conversations that you as a child should not be a part of. So let me take it on with them. And so that was what empowered me and why I chose the path that I'm in now and why I show up the way I do with whoever I interact with. And I continue to kind of do that for my own family, for my own relatives. I am the youngest one from my parents, but sometimes I'm like in this weird limbo right now. Maybe it's the age where I kind of have to do some parenting myself. But also through what I've learned in these spaces that NCN has taken me, I also share those teachings with them back at home to continue to support them in their growth and in their healing. And so, Israel, you might have answered this a little bit in one of the other questions that we asked you, but how has your healing changed how you show up for your family, for your community, and your purpose?
Yeah, I mean, starting with what's most important is right here at the home front, the family. You know, I feel like since I've been on this journey, I know I'm a righteous father now. You know what I mean? I'm here all the way around for my kids, grandkids. You know, I got my grandpa now. I got 3 granddaughters. And so I'm blessed, you know, like my oldest son, unfortunately, was direct filed in 2011, a couple months after I got indicted, and he ended up with a 28-year sentence with 2 strikes. So unfortunately, he's still there, you know, and I have 3 children of my own. I have 2 daughters. I have my son Gregory, my daughter Bianca, and Nayeli. But unfortunately for Israel and for them, more unfortunately for them, I didn't meet them till they were 4 or 5 because, you know, I was taking off, coming back, take off. But I want to acknowledge right now my son Charlie. Y'all probably met my son. You know, he's my quote unquote stepson, but he's my son. He's been mobbing up and down. He's a movement baby. You know, he's been everywhere, ceremonies, retreats, Capitol, legislature, you name it. But you know what I would say, what I didn't get from my pops is I have with my son. You know, we communicate. I hug him. I tell him I love him every night. I kiss him in his forehead. You know, he tells me he loves me, even though this is not no shade towards my jefito. You know, I think he definitely did his best. And when I interviewed him and learned his story and when he lost his parents, it all made sense. He didn't have, he had a gap as well. You know what I mean? He had to quit school like in 6th grade or 7th to start working, you know, over there. And so I would say for sure, is, you know, my relations have improved with my daughter Bianca. With my daughter Nayeli is still a work in progress. But my wife also has kids. So together we got a little team, you know. And I'll share, like, in the past, it was always so easy for me. Right now, I could see a little homie. I give him a big ass hug and give him a kiss on the forehead. No problem.
Yeah.
Because of my being gone and how that impacts the most important relationships, it's weird. It's hard. It's challenging. There's a lot of hurt from them. You left them, all that. It's a lot of work that needs to happen there. But because of Círculo, being a facilitator, holding space, because of the growth, you know, in even still deinstitutionalizing and challenging old attitudes and ways of thinking, seeing certain things, I'm going to say I feel like I'm a great dad and I'm a great husband and I'm a great grandfather because everything I've done since I've been home has helped me get to where I'm at, including y'all, including Cisco and y'all, and everything we do, Círculo, and supporting young people, everything that I'm doing, it just continues to make me further stronger, further align my body, my soul, my spirit. And I'm grateful. I'm super grateful because there's days when I'm in my funk and I don't feel sacred. I have, you know, I think there's a reason why I know I can't sleep at times and things like that. It's my nightmares. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I acknowledge everybody who has helped me, you know, in any single way since I've been home. Most especially our medicine men, medicine women. But our regular community members showing up to an action is healing for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Taking homies to a sweat lodge versus going to party and find girls and do all the other stuff that we might have done in the past is healing for me. You know, that these young people, oh my Lord, I'm blessed. And, I've met hundreds, maybe thousands of young people since I've been home. We're in 24 counties, our alliance. And so seeing their trajectory, and I got mentees who they now check up on me. Hey, how you doing? You're struggling. Where you at? Where you at today? 1 through 5. You know what I mean? Like, and like I think about like you might know Ezekiel. I met him when he and my little Sureño homie. We did a 1-year fellowship. He made it. I met him fresh out of YA. Took him around with me. He's now. I've seen him fellowship, ARC, credible messenger in juvenile hall. He's now with DYD working for the county, CalPERS, nice. 401k. Doing great. He has a baby and he's well. Numerous young people come to mind who I've seen, come home from incarceration. Our community supports them and they're thriving. They've surpassed me in numerous, even in their healing, and they're in their 20s doing what I'm trying to figure out right now, about to be 48 in a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? And so I think all of that, it all contributed to what's in front of me here, where I'm at and where I'm going. And then I have to acknowledge again, Cisco, you've been, you're one of my elders where I'm ready to crash out. And good, hey, I haven't called in a while. That's good. But I lean on you. I lean on Mr. Robert Castro right here for whatever reasons, y'all too have been great examples to me, like all the way around, being humble, not judgmental and things like that, understanding, patient. But I acknowledge Jerry, Hector, Ozzy, the Comadres. There's so many, and I don't want to just start naming folks because then you forget somebody. And, but all of the folks who have supported me, you know who you are. If you're in any of those categories I just mentioned, you know who you are. You contributed to my wellness, to my healing. You fill my cup to keep going for what we need to do, what I need to do, because it's hard. I'll be honest. I've been really struggling wanting to walk with love right now. I want to walk with love and I don't want to hurt anybody else. At the same time, I'm a guerrero. I'm a warrior. I've been a warrior and we're under attack. And these people are doing some horrible things to our kids, to our aunties, to our community. They're even killing white folks now. You know what I mean? And so I'll be honest, I've been really struggling, but I'm praying. I've come too far and I'm not going to crash out. And I hope it doesn't go there, But I would say I want to continue to walk right and with love and understanding, while at the same time ready to protect, defend our villages by any and all means necessary,
Well, I think one of the strongest things, what you said, is being a warrior. And then there's all kinds of warriors. I talk about this a lot because sometimes people look at war, they hear warriors and they think, oh, it's about war. But it's really doing everything we can not to have war. But if it comes, we're ready. But that's not what we want. We want to do what we can. Like Nane, Luis Villanegra from San Jose. He passed on a couple of years ago. He was a Black Beret, very inspirational. What he taught me was that nurturing love, that cariño. He taught me that. I seen the way he talked to his kids, the way he talked to his wife. Every time, I don't care where we were at. If he was there, the first thing he said, I want to honor my wife right there at her name. And he recognizes her, recognizes his kids in a good way. I remember seeing him when I was young and wanting that to be more, be more nurturing, right? To have that love. And that's what I want to say to you, Israel. I see that cariño in you.
For sure.
Sometimes people ask me, they've asked me before, like, why do you support him? It's like, why not? It's like, I'm not a fair weather homie. That's not me. Good or bad, I'm a ride. You know what I mean? We're going to figure it out. But I don't just be friends with people or familia like we are. I don't do that lightly. If I take you as a relative, that's it. That's the way it is, and sometimes you have relatives that you know where they're at and you want to give them grace and you're patient with them. But you might keep them at a distance because they're not ready. But I never saw that in you. I tell everybody, we got to bring them closer. Don't alienate. That's what the system does. Why would we alienate our people that way?
Yeah, no, I wanna, if I may, apologies for interjecting, but I have to acknowledge and appreciate you for that. That's why I love you, brother, because you don't judge, you know what I mean? And I had never met a perfect person in my life, and as y'all know, yeah, I've been in the hot seat a couple times, but nothing. I mean, it is what it is. I think it's clear why they're coming, but at the end of the day, those couple of hiccups that I've had, if that's what I'm struggling with right now, then people have no clue how far I've come. What I was up, people know what I was up to before. The community knows, law enforcement knows. And so I would think that they would actually want to help us and maybe even share some of their resources, because we're actually creating public safety. You know what I mean? Salinas, we went from having high 30s and low 40s of homicides yearly to we've been hitting some single digits. And I'm not saying I'm responsible, but I know I have a big role in it because this is the first time that I came home and this is what we're doing now. And so I feel good about that. You know what I mean? I'm not out here hurting nobody nor sending nobody, and on the contrary, I want to help, I want to help and I want our community, and it's happening. You know what I mean? There's a lot of civic engagement right now in Salinas. We've been at it, we're ensuring we have proper representation, so on and so forth. But anyways, thank you, Cisco, because what you shared is that's the approach. Folks in this movement, I've seen a lot. There's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of challenges in this nonprofit industrial complex. And at the end of the day, all youth are sacred. And all the young people that I meet, I'm going to support them regardless of anything. Even if they go and mess up again, even if it's something super horrible, they're still sacred. I'm still going to walk with them, stand by them, support them. And I think that's the approach that's needed, because we often hear those closest to the problem are closest to the solutions, and how important the formerly incarcerated voice is, and the impacted voice, and bringing the young people. But we're coming with our baggage. You know what I mean? And we're coming the way we're coming. We're just, I'm me. That's all I could be. And thank you, bro. I thank you for that, because that keeps me going,
Well, brother, tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now and the struggles you're fighting in, because I think it's important. Like I said, my thought before was very anti-system, right? Because I've seen it I've encouraged just some of my relatives through the La Raza Unida party back in the day. I encouraged some of my younger homies at the time to go for office, to be city council members.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them got compromised, to be honest, and some didn't. Some took it and they stood their ground. And so I've learned over the years. That's one thing I have to give credit to Juan too, because when Juan was telling me about Meatball, getting everything together, I approached the movement very differently. I'm from a different school when it comes to the movement. It's either all or nothing, no compromises, but I understand that's not always the way to go. Small victories lead to us winning. We got to take our victories and go with that. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now, because I think it's important.
Oh, man, we're doing a lot, bro. I mean, I will share just some of the local work that I was able to co-lead, and we had some success, starting with like our first fight at Milpa when I came home it had to do with school resource, what they call school resource officers. They want to have law enforcement in our schools. And we actually led a charge where we were able to stop them 3 out of 4 school districts, and they had to return a significant amount of money to the DOJ, which explains the reason why they're attacking that first day. We hit their pockets, and we're going to continue to. I mean, we stopped the sheriff at one time wanted to take all visitings from our county jail. No visits besides video visitation. And we fought against that and we won. All visits were kept. And now they have this as an additional option and they can't make no changes. I mean, on a statewide. And so right now, my role is I'm one of 3 organizers / co-conveners of the California Alliance for Youth and Community Justice, CAYCJ. And they say we're the largest alliance in the nation. It's 40 community-based organizations, give or take, connected at different levels and layers. But we have partners now in 24 counties and growing. And so we do our best to support the movement in 24 counties, whether it's at the school, city, council level, advocacy, organizing. And then together, we have had some amazing success legislative-wise. I feel like I came home right at the right time when Prop 47 was in motion. My first statewide campaign was Prop 57, where we volunteered, got a bunch of signatures, and we got it on the ballot to whereas we were the first state to end what they call direct files. And that is the district's attorney ability to charge kids as adults. And so prior to Prop 57, the way it operated was when they passed Prop 21, I think like in 2000, 2000, por ahí, it allowed them to try kids 15 and over as adults, including life without parole. And the DA had that decision, and that decision was made within 3 days. By the time you go to your arraignment, when you get arrested, they have to take you to court within 3 working days. And so by the time of the arraignment, that district's attorney had to make a decision whether this young person should stay in the youth justice system or should get buried forever. And unfortunately, from like 2000 until we passed Prop 57, we were averaging about 1,000 young people in California being tried as adults. And so we ended that practice. It's been on, bro. SB 1391, 14 and 15-year-olds can no longer be tried as adults. I was part of that. We did that. SB 439, a minimum age of 12 of when you could be arrested. We didn't have no statute, no laws. And when we fought this one in Monterey County, we did our research, and from 1995 to 2015, in a 20-year time span, they arrested almost 600 kids between the ages of 6 and 11, including 4 6-year-olds.
Wow.
So now it's a minimum age of 12, unless it's one of the most heinous crimes, what they call the most heinous murder, rape, arson, etc. I think another huge one is it still seems surreal, but we freaking closed down our state youth prisons, the California Youth Authority.
Yeah.
That's been a blessing and a curse. We won't even get into that, but we closed down our state youth prisons. Bam. That's huge, you know? So I could go on and on, bro. I can go on and on the like victories, but what I could say is we're doing our best to organize, mobilize, and fight the good fight, you know?
Well, what's the fights right now that
fights,
are over that horizon? I
Right
think
now,
it's important to share that with people.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, bro, because we need a lot of help. And so we have a lot of goals, but we want to end adult transfers, period. We want no kids to be tried as adults, right? And so there's a bill that's moving that's actually created by young people within the Secure Youth Track Facility in Los Padrinos, Los Angeles. They have a youth advisory board. These youngsters are fighting for 2 bills, which got authors and we're going to fight hard for. One of them is so that 17-year-olds, they could still be transferred, but trying to create like more criteria so that it's more challenging, right? So we've already saved 15 and 16-year-olds from being tried as adults. Now we're going to try to save 17-year-olds from being tried as adults.
Yeah.
The second one that is coming from these amazing, brilliant young men in there is a right to hug. And so we got kids right now who have been sitting in juvenile hall 2 years, 3 years, and have not hugged their mom once.
Oh, no.
I don't got to say nothing else there. That's horrible. So those are 2 good bills that are moving. We have a few bills that are moving. We were hoping to end juvenile strikes last year, turn into a 2-year bill. This year, we're not going to be able to move it this year, but the coalition and the member, Sharp Collins, I definitely want to acknowledge Assembly Member Sharp Collins, I believe from San Diego. She's with us. She's committed, and so are we. And so we're going to continue. I will share that last year, we ended what they call endless probation. If folks don't know, up until last year, you could be on probation till you're 21. There was no process, no checkout process, no nothing. And so now kids will have the opportunity to get off in 1 year. But that took us 7 legislative cycles to achieve. And so fortunately, a lot of our work, especially when we're talking legislative, it's a hard fight. The opposition acts like it's the end of the world no matter what we're doing, and they have a lot of resources. And so it's a fight. It's hard, but I would say some of the priorities for this year is going to be the right to hug, the adult transfers of 17-year-olds, and there's a few other good ones that are slipping my mind right now, bro. But top priorities for this legislative cycle is going to be those right there. And I thank you for asking me to share, because I'll be honest, last year was a very hard legislative cycle for us. You know, we got endless probation. I think that was kind of like it, and we were used to getting multiple bills and big bills. This year, from what I could see, unfortunately, I think there's still like a lack of leadership up here in Sacramento, you know, to be honest. I see them trying to do no mask, no this, no that, nothing that we really need, but we're actually having a hard time finding authors. And so I feel like the political climate has highly impacted our work, you know. When it comes to politicians, unfortunately, most of them, their career is foremost, And so I'm not seeing the leadership that I thought we were going to see when there's about the one the president. You know what I mean? I thought it was going to look. I thought there were going to be more. They talk about the super blue majority that I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it, and I thought they were going to continue on the same path and hold it. But what I could say when it comes to youth justice, we're not interested in going backwards, and we're going to hold the line. And we know that they're actually trying to reverse 1391. They want to send kids. So as they're trying to take us backwards, we're going this way, and crap that's going to stop us. You know what I mean? That's my attitude. But we need a lot of help. So if folks want to help us, if you have, impacted members of your family, young, old, strikes, all that type of things, we're going to need a lot of extra help in order to continue in the right direction.
Israel, if people wanted to get involved with your work, how can they connect with you, or how can they learn more?
I would say my email is Israel, my name, ISRAEL @CAYCJ. We also have a website that I'm going to be sharing with y'all so that it gets included when we release this and stuff like that. But my email is the best way. I don't care what county you're in. We're in 24 counties, and we want to be in all 58 counties. And so holler, connect, whether you want to help our work, whether you want to talk about healing. Like, I don't know everybody, but we know people all over the place, and we will do our best to connect you, to invite you, to embrace you. And we need each other. You know what I mean? There's two types of powers. There's money, which they have, and there's people, which we're the people. And so it's important that we get involved, especially in these times. I know a lot of people still days, the data research shows that most of our folks are still not voting, and I understand it. I was never cared about it. And what I want to encourage our folks is to not allow the national circus to distract you from engaging, because what matters to me most, and from my experience, what we're able to impact most is the school board trustees, the city council members, and the board of supervisors who are making the policies, who are allocating the budgets in our very own communities where we live, where our kids live. And so in Salinas, we have some interesting political fights happening. We have one city council member, Andrew Sandoval, who I stand with 100%, very transparent. He's with us, and they're trying to censor him and recall him. And so we're going to defend him. We're going to recall Barajas from the East. He's going to be the first that's going to go. And then Luis Alejo, Board of Supervisors, under a recall. So there's a lot of energy, and the community is showing up. And so I'll be honest, regardless of everything that's going on around us, for me, I'm going to hone in on what I need to do, and especially the local, because that's where we can impact. And I'm going to say this. I want to challenge all the homies, regardless, whatever that means to you. If you're up here, down there, over there, I don't care. But any homie, even formerly incarcerated people, even felons, we fought so that we could vote. But y'all ain't showing up, And so I want to encourage everybody that's over 18 to register to vote, because these next few election cycles are going to be critical, especially where it matters most, at home. And we can't do it without you. Many people complain, and some people share posts and things like that. That's cool. But OG, when I first got to prison, told me this, and I never forgot it. He said, youngster, if you're not going to do nothing about it, don't complain.
Yep.
Okay. And so that led to me learning how to write grievances and file writs of habeas corpus and fight.
Yeah.
There's different battlefields. The spiritual war, there's a physical war, there's the advocacy world, and these systems, all these layers they're all battlefields. You know what I mean? And I'll share that. I want to invite our folks, especially if you're in Salinas right now and you ain't registered to vote, and you're a raza, your people need you, your kids need you, the future generations need you. So I encourage, no matter what barrio community you're in, the least you can do is register to vote and vote, because although it might not matter as far as us picking the president, hey, let me tell you this: city council, board of supervisors, school board districts, they're winning or losing oftentimes by 100 votes or less.
Yes.
We got thousands of homies who could contribute and make sure that we have proper representation, like Mr. Andrew Sandoval, But with that, I think, again, I've kind of went in a few directions. I better
it's all good.
I better land my plane, eh?
No, I appreciate that, because, that's part of our aftermath. Pick up that pen, do something, contribute. Even if you You can't go to the protest. You can still advocate, share the message, encourage other folks to do things. And if you have the ability to vote, don't waste it. Vote. Encourage your family to do it. I remember my mom, she never voted. And I would be like, here, mom, here's this. And my mom would say, well, tell me about it. And sometimes my mom will argue with me, but I don't really believe in that. And I would lay out the arguments and I respected her. If she didn't agree, I would just say, okay, well, we'll put that down. But I wanted you to be informed. That's a powerful message. And also it's like one of those things, do your part, whatever it is, supporting, advocating, just hugging your kid, tell them you love them. Your daughter, your son, your grandkids, your nieces and nephews. And, let's go back to being compadres, let's be the co-parents, both mom and dad, to all the kids, and I know some people say, well, I can't do that. I get it. Life did you wrong in some ways, but at the same time, let's break those cycles. It's very important. So I want to thank you again, Israel, for coming, for sharing all those things. We'll put all those links in the show notes, but I just want to remind the folks too, also, even the support that the network has gave the National Compadres Network and our work in healing generations. And, if I ever needed you guys for, to get the word out about a free training, things that we're working on, you always found a way to help us out. And I appreciate that because that's what it's about, right? Give and take relationships, how we support one another. So I just want to encourage people to support any way you can, even if it's just a donation. You don't have, $1. If we all gave just even $1, even $5, we would make a big impact. I think about it. The Crusade for Justice didn't wait on grants. They didn't say, hey, I'm not going to change nothing until I get a grant. I mean, today's movement world, we're looking for this funding, but we forget self-determination.
That's right.
We got to determine that means reaching in our own pockets and physically doing it. You know what I mean? I think about the co-ops that the United Farm Workers did. I think about all the different, they did not wait for grants. Let's warrior up and don't worry. I mean, yes, if it's available, let's go for it. But in this political climate, things are different. So I just wanted to share that. I also wanted to share as we close up. I want people to know also the National Compadres Network and Healing Generations, which is this collaboration with the Brotherhood of Elders. One of our first tenets is we believe in advocating for change in your region, but it takes learning about yourself, learning about your culture, finding the medicine within wherever you are, finding that medicine. And I understand it comes from different places. So I'm open to that, but I would say find that medicine. But Healing Generations, our other thing is we want to improve. Even people that do this work, the CVI work, working on curbing violence in the community. If you're a credible messenger, we want to make sure that us in the trenches that have lived experience, we continue to take care of ourselves as we do this work, because we're important enough that we can't always do for other people. We got to do for ourselves so we can be the best version of ourselves. You know what I mean? And I want to encourage you, if there's ways that you could connect with either organization or all our vast network, do it in some way, shape, or form. I just want to remind you, we also do reentry work. We do mostly building up the field and healing, circles, things like that. There's so many tools out there that we can use to bring about change. So I just want to remind you, you could always go to our website, the National Compadres Network.org. And there you'll find all the links, all the things you need to learn about, all the different struggles. We're actually finishing up, and I wanted to share this with Israel. We're finishing up the research. Israel was also a part of our Strengthening Hearts Fellowship, where we really tried to provide encouragement and really try to understand those that do work, either reentry, CBI work, community advocacy, training, all those different kinds of things, that what do they do for their own healing, and do in their process of doing the work, do they get the skills that they need to take care of themselves and really look at the problem from that healing-centered lens, not just trauma-informed, healing-centered. Because like one of my elders always told me, if we don't tolerate our kids, who's going to? Right? There's a zero tolerance attitude. Like, oh, we need to toughen up right now. We need to lock these kids up because that's what they learn about accountability. No, accountability is learning information that will change the behavior. Punishment alone will never work. It just won't. So we need to be more open and really do the work. I appreciate you so much. This was a very impactful episode in a lot of ways, and I thank you for that. Michelle, is there anything last minute message you want to provide to the gente out there?
No, nothing for me. I think this was a really great conversation that we had with you, Israel. I had been really looking forward to it. Like I said, I've been in so many spaces with y'all, and I admire you so much. You're also one of like the Yelders that I look up to, that I've come to meet in this space through NCN. And so thank you for making the time to be here with us today. It's always great to share space with you.
Oh, yeah. If I may, just a couple of things on the way out is you talk about the, breaking those cycles. I have a beautiful granddaughter. She's running around right here, Jovi. She's about to be 3 on Valentine's, but not every morning, but many mornings as I'm right here on Zoom, whenever she wakes up, she comes over here, medicine, grandpa fire, grandpa fire. And so we're definitely breaking those cycles. She knows the medicine, and she sings the dancing and dance. So she asked me to sing songs for her. And so we're definitely working, breaking those cycles. I also just, an outgoing message to, I think most important to the young folks.
Yeah.
But even to some of us who didn't get a chance, who got buried when we were young, didn't get a chance to be a kid and things like that. And so we're all young at heart, but I think just a message, most important for the young folks and for my comrades, brothers and sisters who might have had a similar experience, who didn't get a chance to be a kid or never got habilitated to be rehabilitated, right? But my message is that, our ancestors knew and believed that we are all sacred. You are sacred. You are worthy of love, a good family, healing, and abundance. For any young folks leaning towards the thug life or that gangbanging, hustling, etc., think long and hard about your future and what you want for your future, because that life and direction is not the best one. Listen to your mom and family who love and want the best for you. You can do whatever you put your heart and mind into. If you invest badly, you will endure the repercussions. If you invest in yourself in a good, strong, positive way, you will reap the benefits and avoid the pains that come with incarceration. The streets will eat you up and swallow you. Prison will eat you up and swallow you. And it's not the best choice of career. Quite frankly, most folks do not even make it where politics are concerned. And so I want the best for all of our people. And I said it earlier, if I could do it, anybody could do it, because I was off the hook. But here we are now, And again, I thank the compadres and Cisco and Michelle here. You both shared some sentiments, and I know that you both know, and anybody that knows me, the feelings are mutual, I'm very transparent. I'm very consistent. I'm me, and I love me, and that's all I could be, and that's all I want to be. And some folks might not like it. That's okay. We're not here to appease everybody, and that's not my job, But again, I thank y'all, and I'm committed, I'll be here. We ain't going nowhere. We got a lot of work to do. When we talk about this long march, and healing and taking care of ourselves is absolutely necessary if we're going to endure this long march and these times that we're in, So with that, you see me light a little bit of Palo Santo. The way we enter is I will go out, with some of this good medicine, just thinking, good intentions out there for the whole world, healing, love, peace, unity, everything that we need in these times. I want to pray and uplift that. And with that, I say amen. I say thank you.
All right, that we're going to leave it there with your palabras. I want to let all the gente, let you know that, change starts with you. And please do what you can, with that palabra.
Thank you.
Hello.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.